Hi, thank you for joining us today. It's Ernie and with Ernie's Inc. and going having fun with Ernie. And we're talking with a good friend of mine, Jennifer Filzen from California and Rockstar Marketing. And she's here to help us today to do some training. And she thought it would be fun that we talk a little bit about our company and what we do and what we offer and why we do it. So Jennifer gets the privilege of interviewing me today instead of me interviewing her, but we'll reciprocate it a little bit, I'm sure. So I'm going to introduce Jennifer and let her kind of lead the way here.
Hello, and thank you for watching. And this is your second podcast episode. This is really cool. We've known each other for, I think, since 2017.
Yeah.
It's been a while. And I am not a person that has an RV. I am a fan by knowing Ernie and his business, Ernie's Incorporated. And like, I've just been watching you and the people that you know. And it's like, it's such an amazing community. I want to know, how did you get started with RVs? Like, did you wake up at birth and say, I'm going to be an RV repairman? Or was there a progression?
It was a progression, and sometimes I think maybe a little bit of a calling. But when I was younger, I worked for U-Haul and I learned how to work on trailers. And then when I got a little bit older, I started working for a company called RV Hitches and Welding. And it just progressed as being an RV technician. And it was one thing that I just found adornment with the people is that they go have fun. It's not, you're not fixing something for somebody that is an emergency, that they're broken and they got to get their car to go to work. Everybody that comes to see us is going to do something that makes them happy. Yeah. And so they come with enthusiasm and excitement. And, you know, one of the things about the RV lifestyle, I'm a hunter and a fisherman. And there's certain times a year and certain events that only happen in split windows. And I really respect people's time and their vacation time. Like, I like to elk hunt, and elk hunting in Washington is a 12-day period. And it's just like the tide.
That's it? That's all you got?
It's 12 days.
Oh, geez.
And so it's just like the tide. It happens on this day and it ends on this day. And if you're ready or you're not, or if you're not prepared, that's your only opportunity for the state of Washington. You don't get to go one way or the other at all. And so it's like with RVing, the same thing. So if the person has X amount of time to go see their grandkids or go do something with their family or friends, they need to be prepared and have fun. And I always really respect that magical moment that they get to do that sort of stuff.
Because they've spent time and effort planning the trip.
Or dreaming.
Dreaming about it for years. It's their bucket list thing.
And it's something maybe they can't do twice. It only gets to happen once.
Right. Okay. Well, so for us that don't have RVs yet, I understand that it takes quite a bit of preparation to go. It's more than, so for the city slickers that don't have an RV, right? What do? We book our flights to wherever, we book our rental car, we book our hotel. Or if we're lucky enough, we've got a friend wherever we're going, right? And maybe the restaurants that we're going to go to. But yours is a whole thing. So if you don't mind, for those who still need education about the RV lifestyle, what kind of time and energy and money does it take to prepare? And then what kind of budget do you have? Because I've heard some pretty amazing bills on just the diesel fuel alone. Yeah. And then like, how long can you go without like replenishing? So please educate us on that one.
If you got to ask, you can't afford it.
Okay. It's one of those. Here's my check.
It's one of those things that you're committed to. And I tell this story. It's very funny. My daughter loved horses as a little girl. And the first horse we went and bought from a lady that was a lifelong family friend. And we went into her tack room and there was saddles and there was bridles and was this and that. And as a younger father, I'm like, holy crap, that costs so much money. How did you get all of that? And then just recently, the girls were at the farm here and getting ready for a tack sale. And our tack room looks like Verna's did back that many years ago. You buy little pieces here, little pieces there, little pieces there. And assuming you accumulate it a little over a time, your initial investment might be substantial. But after you get the core stuff that you need, it lasts for quite a while. And you don't have to, run out and buy hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. So it lasts for a while. So once you have the base equipment, when you go RVing, you got to eat wherever you're at. You've got to sleep wherever you're at. And then you just have travel fuel to get there, and then maybe camp fees if the where you're staying has camp fees. Some do, some don't. So traveling can be inexpensive or as expensive as you want to create it. If you want to go on a long, thrown out journey, you could spend $10,000 on fuel. You want to go see something locally in your state, you could get away with less than a couple $100. So it really depends on what intrigues you.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. All right. So now I kind of want to get into the nitty gritty of like you're traveling and you're tired and you want to park somewhere. Where's the safe place to go if you want to take a nap? Is it true that Walmart allows people to park in their parking lot for free? Or is that
In the past, it has happened, and I think because of some of the homeless stuff that's going on, they frown on that a little bit. I know that there are certain rest areas throughout the United States that are fairly safe to stay in. You can stay in rest areas. There's a lot of national and state parks that you can pull off and get a little bit of rest if it's just a quick nap or refreshing. Most people that travel are a little bit more organized than that, and that they have some planned destinations in mind that they go, okay, we're going to travel to here and we're going to enjoy the afternoon, having a place of picnic or dinner, and then get up in the morning and go somewhere else that they've got some sort of known destination. But if you're just going from, say, Washington to Arizona, lots of people do stop at casinos or Walmarts or whatever, someplace along the way that allows that overnight camping.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. And then also too, like, all right, I'm going to probably TMI, but when I go on a long road trip and I'm just driving in my passenger car and I got to go to the bathroom, I'll pull over at McDonald's because they always have the bathrooms accessible. Or maybe I'll be lucky enough to find a truck stop kind of thing. But I make sure that I buy something because I feel awkward about like, hi, bye. And I don't support them. You know what I mean? Do you kind of have to do the same thing when you are stopping off and getting rest? Like, say, for example, if you pulled over at, I don't know, a Walmart, are you kind of, I'm guessing Walmart's expecting you to go in and buy some supplies, or how does that work?
We personally, me and my family, have never traveled and had to stay in a Walmart. But I would feel that would be a position of, respect, is to support the local community of whatever, go into the casino and help, spend a little money eating breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or gamble if that's what you're into, or go in and, buy something from Walmart or get something from there to, help support them, because it costs them to have that facility, and, you're taking up space.
Yeah, that's cool. Here's another thing, safety. Okay. So I know that you work with a lot of people from all different types of cultures, all different ages, genders. I know that you've told me in the past that you have a lot of people who are like first-time RVers, and maybe it's single women who are, interested in doing that RV lifestyle, which sounds so cool. But then like there's that concern amongst a lot of women, or maybe people who are just feeling vulnerable, right? They're like, okay, safety. Do you have to carry a firearm? What are the rules around that? How do you make sure that your RV is safe and you're not at risk of a break-in? Like, how do you just make sure that you are safe when you're traveling?
There's no guarantees in this world. Anything can happen anywhere. And, different states have different rules of firearm carrying and all that. And it's each personal preference that way. There's lots of friends and family of mine that carry firearms in different areas that they go to protect themselves. But a lot of people you select. So like if you were to go to Yellowstone or to some of these national parks, you're not allowed to carry a gun in those areas. That's not legal.
I didn't know that.
And so you need to be aware of the rules and regulations. And then, it's just like going to the mall or something like that. There's always an opportunity for something bad to happen. But for the most part, RV parks are some of the safest places in the world. If you ever listen to the news, you don't ever hear of a mass shooting in an RV park. You never hear of an abduction at an RV park or anything like that. It's a very safe community. It's a very friendly community. If you ever want to make a friend, just walk around to RV park, and if somebody doesn't talk to you, they're dead. Because most people want to connect with everybody, and they're out there to enjoy themselves. If you pull into some place and it looks like somebody's in a homeless shelter and has been living there a long time, maybe a little different vibe. But for the most part, somebody that's truly recreating, they're super friendly.
Oh,
They're
wow.
super. There are very few sketchy people in the RV parks.
So pretty much, if you're in an RV park and you're paying the RV park fee,
Right.
whether it be a national park, a state park, or an
Private park,
RV
yeah.
specific resort.
Yeah.
I've seen that RV resorts are the thing.
They can be as expensive as $1,000 a week.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, all right, I'm so intrigued. When you go to an RV resort, what are you getting for that $1,000? Because you're already sheltered.
Correct. The thing that you get is like you might get upfront parking on the ocean.
Oh.
It might be very, very pristine, unique area. You get clubhouses, swimming pools, golf, all sorts of things. The sky's the limit on that sort of stuff as far as what you can do. A lot of places like down in Vegas, they have some very nice RV parks that people bring their RVs down and hang out in the Vegas area. My dad went to one of them that was very, very, very bougie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's like my old RV didn't fit in there very well. I mean, they have their own restaurants and food center and the whole 9 yards.
Oh wow.
So, they'll have a little mini grocery store and all that.
Dang,
so
really?
I mean, sky's the limit in RV parks and what people will do and kind of wrap it into kind of a community type thing, or it could be as quaint as just a little place on a little lake that you could go fishing, or some of the unique RV camping is they have things you can go around and camp on people's farms now. That you drive across America and we'll pull up by the barn and watch the cows and spend the night on their farm. And the next thing you get up in the morning and leave, and you just, it's a camping club. So there's all sorts of unique opportunities.
Actually, that you remind me, I found that in California, there are several wineries that will allow you to park amongst the vineyards, which is apparently stunning. You're of course not allowed to go harvest their grapes. Don't touch their grapes, but you can admire them. Maybe take some pictures.
In Washington, they have a couple of RV tours called the Fruit Tour, where you actually go from vineyard to vineyard to vineyard, and you can do things on the.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know how many allow you to camp, but you go on a camping caravan and then you take a tour and tour all the different vineyards.
Wow. Speaking of tours, on your last episode, you got to sit down with Mel and Nancy.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how they go on these group tours. Okay, that is so cool. If you haven't watched, go watch that episode. Okay. But tell me, how do you find these tours? How do you know which ones are going to be better? Like, do you have something like on Yelp or Google that like ranks them and see which group is best? Or do you do it through word of mouth? I mean, how do you find these folks?
We had a customer in here the other day, and it's super interesting. And like I said earlier, I'm a hunter. And, if you were to go on a hunting trip and spend thousands of dollars to go hunting in Alaska or Africa or something, they recommend that you speak to some previous clients and find out what their experience was like and get some reference type things to make sure that they're vetted well, that you feel like you'll be a fit to the organization. Mm-hmm. So same with RV camping. This customer that we had just the other day, he's getting out of the military and he has 4 adopted children, both sets of twins. Wow. And he, as a single father, is going to South America with his RV, and they're dropping it off at the furthest point south, and they're coming all the way up South America through Central America to the United States, and then going to go to Alaska on an RV tour. It's $25,000 to take that particular trip that this gentleman and his 4 kids are going to make, and they're 8 and 14, and Dang. They're going to take a year to take this journey. So as wild of an idea as you can have to as simple as going down to the lake and taking a little vacation. So,
so Argentina, all the way up to Alaska.
Right.
Woo! Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Wow. And that also was
a crazy adventure.
Yeah.
Being a person that I would consider a homebody, I don't leave my city very much. I can't even imagine the adventurous spirit it takes to take those young kids through all those third world countries on a tour and be able to do that for a year's period of time. But he's in the military and he's overcome lots of adversity, and he's a little braver than I am, obviously.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely
And
amazing.
my question to him was, did they have mechanics when you're out there on the road? Because when
Right.
your RV breaks down, how do you get parts for it in the middle of Costa Rica, Argentina, whatever? I don't
Right.
even know all the countries down there, to tell you the truth. But I mean, I know that it's a long ways.
And especially if you have a breakdown. Okay, let's talk about breakdowns a little bit. There are different things that can happen. You can have an awning that doesn't retract back. Like what happens, like if you go and you camp and you put out the awning so you have your shelter, but then you can't get it back in. What do you do? What do you do when you can't move it? Because what are you going to do? Drive it down the freeway and then the awning just gets knocked off by like a piling? Like, how does that work?
So in recent years, it's not been quite like it had in the initial assessment of RVers, but most of the people that RV are very self-sufficient, and they're very, it's like being Lewis and Clark. And when they started traveling across the United States and exploring, they had to overcome all their diversities, and they have to come up with methods. So maybe you have to take your awning out, or you have to learn about your RV and kind of become your own little emergency mechanic at times, or you have to be able to work with resources. You can't be just self-dependent on somebody like me when you're out in the middle of nowhere, because you've lost resources that you're used to having at a local at hand. It isn't that it always happens, but you have to be a little bit resourceful, and that resourcefulness will help you in a lot of that sort of thing. If you're not a resourceful person, maybe don't go on some of these big, huge, crazy adventures without somebody that is resourceful to help you out, because you could get caught in a situation where you might go, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And if you had a resourceful person that, had some ability on how to figure out how to take that awning off, or how to roll that awning in, or how to put that slide out, or a way to get a tire changed. There's all sorts of things that could happen, but most RVers are very resourceful people. Like we were talking to Mel and Nancy, they've been on over 1,000 days of travel, at least what we were talking. And they did a 2-month travel, he was saying, and only had one flat tire in the entire group. So everybody, the preparedness is also at a heightened level of, it's just not taking things for granted, but you go, the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. They're going out there being prepared also.
That's good. And then, okay, maintenance, being proactive. All right. So before you go on your trip, you really have to make sure that everything is in working order. And it's more than just the engine and the tires and the brakes. It's also, does the oven work? Does the plumbing work? Is the roof in good shape? Because as I understand it, like every time you drive your RV down the road, it's going through the equivalent of a hurricane. Yes?
And an earthquake.
Jeez, man. So, I have seen it to where people with their normal passenger cars, right? The mechanic will say, you need to get your brakes done. You need to get all the belts changed and the hoses changed, and just do a major service. And, that'll be $3,000 depending on what the car is. Right. And people are going, oh, that's a lot. And then they have to figure it out. But in an RV, I would see that there would be even more danger. Like a passenger car, you're going to be able to get it towed easily. Hopefully you're not that far away from home. But when you're in an RV, that's your mobile house, right? So do you find that people are better about being proactive and maintaining their RVs because they know that if their resourcefulness goes beyond, or if the situation goes beyond their own set of resource skills, then they're going to be in deep doo-doo?
So I'm going to spin this a little bit different. So we also do RV repair, but we also do equestrian type stuff with horse trailers and cattle trailers and stuff like that. And I tell this story a lot. So if you're out on the freeway and you have a livestock trailer or a horse trailer, and you have that crazy breakdown where the brakes wheel falls off, whatever, I always say that's a whole new kind of screwed. Because what do you do with a trailer full of cattle? Or what do you do with a trailer full of horses when you can't make it move and you're in the middle of however many miles between someplace to the other? Same thing with the RV, and it's your home and it's all your stuff. You just walk away from it. So you kind of have to roll into your mind, it's like, if the worst case scenario happened from here, I want to be as prepared as I can because I don't want to be stuck with my horses on the edge of the road. I don't want to leave everything I own on the edge of this tight little freeway that, nobody can squeak by it for me. So you kind of got to have a little bit of fear, I would say, and a little bit of, I don't like bad things happening. So I want to be as prepared as I can. I'm going to tell a really kind of gruesome story. When we were in high school, we used to show livestock animals at the Puyallup Spring Fair, and they sold cattle and sheep and pigs at the fair. And one year, this guy came in with this horse trailer, and there was a cow in the back of it, and there was this red line coming into the parking lot. The wood boards had broken off, and the cow's feet had fell through to the freeway and then ground the cow's legs off as he came up to the livestock thing. And it was a travesty, but you wouldn't think to check the wood floor of a horse trailer to make sure that it was repaired and a quality that would hold a 1,000-pound animal bouncing down the road and to not fall through. So it takes people that have some understanding to understand that, hey, these bad things could happen and we don't ever want to see this gruesomeness. And, you might have a horse or a cow, a prize cow or whatever, that you really don't want anything bad to happen and to make sure that the bad things don't happen. So, the preparedness, if it's taking your family on a vacation in your RV or your horse trailer and your horse to the mountains or a horse show or your cattle to the Prize County Fair, you want to make sure that it's at a level of preparedness that you can get there home and back and safe. You also want to do that with your commuter car as you go down the road, but there's not a lot of people who are going to stop on the edge of the freeway and put boards in or brakes or tires or whatever. So it's a little bit different that you just can't hook it up and tow it away.
Wow. Fascinating. That's so fascinating. Also, too, one thing I've noticed from being here with you at your shop, you've got all these cool specialty things. And I was teasing Ernie earlier that he's like the kid with the biggest toys, because there's some really cool tools and equipment that you have that nobody else has that I've seen in other shops of repair shops. So you have, you have ladders, but you also have like a person,
man lift.
Man lift. Thank you. Okay. So you can get in this thing. It's almost like a bucket truck. You just go up and you can see the roof and you can climb up on the roof and do the caulking or do whatever repairs. You also have some really cool lifts that help the staff members so they don't have to carry the weight of that heavy thing that they're trying to lift. How did you know that was the kind of equipment that you needed? Did you learn the hard way? You were trying to do this yourself?
Absolutely. As growing up a farm boy, you always try and come up with solutions to problems and overcome it. And you go, hey, you know what? That would work. Let's try that. And there's been some mild disasters every once in a while when you got the let's try that. But, if you ever want to see, girls like to go to the mall and shop for outfits. Mechanics like to go to the tool store and shop for tools and just oogle over what's going to make their life easier and more fluid. And, wrenches and electronic gizmos and gadgets are our kryptonite that, I can have several $1,000s worth of tools and wear shorts that got holes in them.
Amazing. I know, right? It's what is our priority, right?
Yeah.
But hey, though, that's cool though. And I really admire what you're doing, because you are giving your techs an allowance every month. Yes.
Yeah.
To go and get new tools to make their job more efficient.
Right. And a lot of the people that started working for me were young, like I was. And it's always been a mission of mine to make sure that I have the best mechanics out there that are available. And then also to compensate them so where they can have a living wage and do well and not struggle. It's an unfortunate industry that a lot of the skills they need are very complicated, but they're underappreciated and underpaid. And I came up through the ranks of the underpaid, not necessarily underappreciated, but underpaid. And, I don't want my crew to be that way. And so we try and make sure that they're well taken care of. And so taking care of their tool, helping them out a little bit with that so that they can stay and maintain up-to-date stuff so that we're kind of leading the spear the best we can. We try really hard to be there. We're not the best of the best, but we like to work as we are.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Another thing that I really admire about you and your team is that you'll tackle pretty much anything, right? You don't necessarily want all projects. There are some, like I've seen it with cars,
Yeah.
you're really driving around an old beater that needs to be released and let go because it's just on its last legs, right? So I'm sure that there are projects that you'd rather not do. But one thing that I like about you and your team is you seem to be fearless in tackling projects. And one thing I didn't know until I started diving into discussing things with you and your team more is that at least with cars, it's more standardized, right? So if you're going to have a Honda, you can pretty much count on the fact that the Honda's engine is going to be laid out in a certain way. And it doesn't matter which brand of Honda, but that Honda engine is going to have these certain characteristics and you pretty much know where to go. But I discovered that even like, say, for example, Newmar RVs, just because these are the highfalutin RVs and they seem standardized, but they're really not. Like they could have the pump on the left side with one model and then the pump on the right side with the model. How do you be fearless in a world of non-standardization and so much customization?
You're a generalist. It's like being a physician and knowing all about the human anatomy, being a generalist. And you have to have a really good understanding of the systems and the processes. And then you kind of have to anticipate what somebody might have done and kind of get the scenario and look at it from a higher picture. So yeah, you know that it takes this, and this to do it. And you might be the water pumps here or the water pumps there, and you have little tricks on how to find it and tools. So it's not necessarily fearless. It's just you learn to cope with situations over the years. And, there's some jobs that you might call kick your butt and take you forever. And that's some of the best education you ever get because you don't ever forget that adventure and how long it took you. And, you'll feel like the stupidest mechanic in the world, but you didn't realize, most of those real stupid things take you forever to find. And they're the fastest fix once you realize where you have to be.
That's okay. Some of us who work with computers feel that way as
right.
well.
Right. The RV is a big complicated house, or it can be a big simplistic house. They're built in all different manners. And so, the components are all generally the same. You got lights and heating and cooling and roofing and siding and insulation. And, it's all the same components. It's just how luxurious they are from one model to the next.
Wow. Well, I'm really impressed with some of the levels of like cute and adorable. Like you have a little scamper back there. It just looks like that perfect little adorable tiny box, and that it feels like a playhouse, like a little girl's playhouse. Yeah. It's so cute, right? And then you've got these luxury, beautiful, massive. They look like a bus. Right. It's just phenomenal. So do you have a particular favorite? Like, I know that you work with them all, but like, is there a certain brand or a certain style that's like, yeah, I love this?
I get this question a ton, and I always respond in a similar manner. You need 4 RVs or you need 3 boats. And I always ask, how do you want to travel? What do you want to do? Because not one size or one brand fits all. So if for whatever reason you might want to go to the national parks, and a lot of these are 20 to 25 foot parks, they're very compact, and some of them are so small you don't got room to even put a tent up. And that's where the evolution of overlanding came from. Is they got little tents on top of their cars or whatever, because when you get to where you got to go, there isn't even enough room to spread out. And then there's other people that might want to just go to the beach for the weekend and might want a medium moderate or a bunk house. And so how you intend to travel, we talked to Mel and Nancy, and they're in a 45 foot mobile house driving to Alaska, and they got everything and the kitchen sink in their RV. And then there's those ones that are super simple. So identifying what the end desired result really aims you towards the product you want to get. And so if you want to be in that luxury resort, some of these higher end RVs are really the way to go. A truck camper might be the person that wants to go take their boat and fish down on the river, or their horse trailer up into the mountains to go riding their horses. So there's no one particular one that really I find beats the other one. It's what fits your need. And I really try and steer people into, once you tell me what you want to do, I guide you in the direction of what will fit your needs with the experience of other people, not necessarily me, but I've worked with, hundreds and hundreds of customers over the years that have went and did all these unique adventures and heard their horror stories and heard the work stories and how they overcome them and what's kind of the best diversity of fit. And then I aim people in those directions. More than once, I've told somebody to sell that piece of junk and get rid of it and get something that fits your needs a little bit better. Or, this is not the right fit or right application for what you're trying to do. And so that's the answer to your question I give most everybody.
That's pretty awesome. I get it though. I'm going to compare it to like my shoes. Since I like to dance, I have more dance shoes than I have street shoes.
Right.
And then there's a different style of shoe for dance, depending on what dance it is. But yeah, you also have your snow boots, your flip flops. You have, so I can see that. But let's face it, a $30 pair of shoes is way different from a $30,000 trailer, right?
Right.
So do people? I don't know. Do people have multiple types of RVs?
Absolutely.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
It's like an addiction, right? Once you get one, it's like a potato chip. You got to have another and you got to have another.
Well, like I have multiple customers that have multiple RVs.
That's so cool.
But they'll have a toy hauler to put their side-by-sides and their quads, and they'll go down to the dunes. And then they might have a hunting one that's kind of designed to go out into the mountains and get beat up. And then they might have a luxury one to go down south and hang out for the winter. So it just really depends on their application. And if you're affluent enough and can afford it, it really matters less. And there's some people that aren't even affluent that they just find affordable things that they make work. So it's what fits your needs. Me and Michelle own a couple of RVs, and one of our favorite ways to travel is with a tent and a cot in the back of our Suburban. So we don't, tourism and recreating and moving around, we don't hold it subject to just taking an RV. You might take your horses and go up into the mountains and go camping in the woods, or you might take and go to a horse show. It's the getting out and doing it that's important to us.
Amazing. This is so fascinating. I'm so glad we're doing this. So I don't have any more questions other than if you had any advice for anybody who wanted to get into the RV lifestyle. Let's just say one of my very, very dearest friends has a daughter that wants to take a gap year between high school and college and wants to live in a van down by the river. I say that with jest, but like wants to go touring. And she's young. She'll be like 18, 19 years old. Or even, the 30-somethings, the nomadic workers that want to, see the world and work remotely. Like if they're new to it, what do you advise? What pearls of wisdom would you like to share?
I like to hunt out of a town called Trout Lake here in Washington. And when we go hunting, there's a place called the Station Cafe. And Trout Lake is a stop on the Pacific Crest Trail that people forward their packages. And the Pacific Crest Trail starts in Mexico and ends in Canada. And these people take 4 or 5 months to do this and take this trip. And a lot of them are high school graduates or college graduates. And they take off on this seemingly scary, dangerous, all by yourself almost, and learn that they end up in a community that supports them and that there's people on the trail with them and they learn their names and they're not sleeping out in the woods alone most of the time. There's a community of people around them still doing the same thing. So I would say the first thing to do is find a way to submerge yourself in the community and find somebody to connect with, and don't be the Lobo that's all by yourself and trying to figure it out all by yourself, because then it gets scary and, afraid of the dark type thing. All of it's overcoming. And so if you wanted to be down by the river, find a group of people that wants to travel around the United States and be that free spirit, maybe the hippies of the 60s or whatever it might be. They still had a community that they came together. And so just find that community and embrace it. And they're out there. It might be YouTube. It might be TikTok. It might be Facebook. It might, however it is, there's, depending on where you're going and what you're interested in, there's a community to get involved with that will help make you feel more secure and comfortable with what your scary new adventure. Because, imagine starting out and then hiking into Death Valley. That as an 18, 19-year-old, I can't see myself hiking through Death Valley. But there's a lot of people that do that. I didn't have that adventurous spirit when I was that young.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you have that adventurous spirit, just find the community.
That is sound advice. Well, I hope you enjoyed getting to know Ernie better. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't, Jen. I just appreciate you coming up here and talking to us and helping us with a few things and getting us started on our first podcasting, and that we'll keep doing this. And this is just a learning-based podcast, and we felt that if we kind of expressed what we do around here a little with her interviewing me, you kind of get how we approach things, that we're more of an education-based company, and that, we're here to help you out and help you get repaired. But more than that, we want you to have fun. That's one of our key tenets to our business. So I hope you guys enjoyed podcast number 2, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.